Hey everybody, welcome to what is kind of a premiere video or vlog commentary on the state of preparedness today and what's going to happen in the coming times. And I'm going to start off this series as a way of backgrounder here. Excuse me. Those of you that know me know that in the past I've done a few survival and preparedness related videos, but I have more than interest than just simply being a prepper. It's not a 100% time filler for me, but I also have an interest in cryptozoology and some of the strange things that are going on in the world today, what makes them happen, and what makes this other side of life tick that we sometimes ignore for want of a better reason of getting through life on a daily basis. But that's neither here nor there. It's just a little bit of background. But I've split my YouTube efforts, as you can tell, for those of you that have followed me for a while, into two separate veins of thought. One of them is on my Bigfoot Tales efforts. The other one is my survival times today, and I'm going to be starting a third one over the winter, entitled Remember Me, or Remember Me Media has a set of various publications and efforts that I call Touring Maine's History, and I'm going to be doing a lot of history videos over the next couple of years to build up a library of things about the state of Maine. Okay, that's enough of the backgrounder. You know that I have a lot of varied interests, but we're going to get right into the prepper end of it here, and I'm going to start at the basics, and I'm going to we'll look at a happening that occurred yesterday. There was a widespread power outage that affected multiple communities, but not entire communities. In the community that I live in, half of the community was dark, the other half was not. But I went walking around, and through the neighborhoods. I walked about 4 miles or so through town, up and down the streets, just to see what was going on. And the power line was pretty evenly split. The large commercial areas of town were not affected by the power outage. However, the southern half, more residential and urban, or suburban rather, territory was actually pretty dark. But as I walked around, I could hear the soothing lull of the many generators humming away in the growing dark. And I could see a couple of people out in the yards. They were cooking over at a open fire type of deal over their grills, charcoal grills and gas grills and whatnot, to make their evening meal. Walked by a waste station pump where the sewage treatment effluent goes to at a low point, and the pumps pump it to the main sewage treatment. Traffic lights were out, of course, and there were police officers standing there controlling the traffic, and they had 4-way stop signs put up on signboards at the intersections. Not everybody stopped, of course. I noticed a couple of near misses because of that, because people are just plain ignorant when it comes to driving their car. They're selfish and they want to be number one. And as that happens, they tend to ignore everybody else. But I got some good pictures, and I did notice that there were only 2 places that were open for business in that end of town. One of them was a store that specialized in selling over 400 kinds of beer. The other one was a bar. So the only 2 places that were willing to continue operating were alcohol related. Not that there's anything wrong specifically with alcohol as far as I'm concerned. I like a good cold beer myself now and then. But these are just some of the signs of the times, and times are going to get worse, but this is a precursor of what could happen in the coming times as we deal with the issues of power outages. There's a growing consensus, and the government now fully agrees that there is a growing EMP threat this nation is facing today. A couple of different scenarios here, and there's a lot of different theories out there, a lot of different arguments as to what's actually going to happen, but there's a lot of different things that could happen, ranging from just a mild blurb where a few things might go wrong to an all-out cease of or cessation of electrical items in any area affected. But basically put, there's two different sources for these EMPs that we have to be concerned with that could cause widespread devastation. Number one is an erupting solar flare, an electromagnetic wave that would be erupted from the sun and hit the earth and pretty much short out everything that carries electricity. And part of this reason is because a lot of people, in their misunderstanding of what electricity really is, don't understand that the reason this could happen is because electricity wants to go to ground. And that doesn't mean it wants to go to the negative pole of the battery. It means it wants to go to ground. It needs to be grounded. That's why lightning happens the way it does. And that's what EMP is basically a widespread lightning strike. In simplistic terms. Again, it's much more detailed than that. I'm not going to even attempt to try to explain all of the variances that these threats pose to us here. There's just not enough time to do that. And YouTube is certainly not the venue for doing that sort of an educational type of video. Mostly because, and I don't want to pick on anybody in particular, but mostly because by far the vast majority of people that are on YouTube only want a quick hit. They want a quick fix of whatever it is they're looking for. If you look at statistics on a lot of the videos, and I use mine as an example, hundreds of thousands of minutes have been watched on any given type of video possibly. But the average viewing length is 4.5 minutes. So for all intents and purposes, most of you are already gone, and you're not hearing this. Those of you that are still here are part of the few. And this is, just as an aside here, this is actually the reason I kind of rambled at the beginning of this video, and it's to get rid of the people that are only looking for a quick fix, or a quick hit. I only want to bother with people that are serious about preparing for the coming times and surviving the times today. So, that said, we'll move on. At any rate, the power outage gave an indication of what could happen and what might happen under any given scenario. With a power outage, people are going to act like that, the way they act, no matter what. People are greedy, people are lazy, people want. So what we saw, the first thing that happened, and I work in retail, and I was working yesterday when this thing hit. People are going to get out and get in their cars, and they're going to go driving, looking for something to do, something to keep them occupied, because by far, most people are wrapped around the electronics of their lives, and when the power goes out, the electronics don't work. No cable, no television, none of that stuff. You can't run on the computer because you don't have backup supplies, and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So they get in their cars, and they drive, and they drive, and they drive, and they look for some place to go. So this part of town, where I'm actually at right now, was booming after the power went out, because people didn't have any place else to go. Town across the river was totally out, from what I understand. And everybody came over here looking for some place to eat and, wander around the stores because they needed something to do. And this is where we need to start our preparedness planning. We need to look at the way that we view what's going on in the world today. We need to take a serious look at our lifestyles and start preparing for the future by changing our lifestyles so that we can cope with what's to happen in the coming time. Years and years ago, we had the great ice storm of 88. We went for 17 days without power at the place that I lived. It was warm. Temperature maintained inside our home was about 70 degrees or so, give or take. It averaged pretty much around 72, 73 from the time that I took it. Had plenty to eat, and yeah, we wanted for nothing. And I was able to get around and go to my job and so on and so forth. That's because I was prepared to live without power. Most people today are not. Even preppers are not prepared to live without power. So you have all these people that are around trying to get up their solar power supplies so they can still use their computer and so on and so forth. But the bigger problem that nobody addresses is the infrastructure, and that's what I observed yesterday. Was a rapid decline of the infrastructure. There's a huge waste treatment pump that I was mentioned earlier actually has a power generator so that it can run if the power goes out, and it did. However, the natural gas supply was interrupted and it wasn't able to run, so the sewer company had to haul in a huge diesel power generator to run the pump. So we have several different aspects of the infrastructure here that collapse. Number one is the electrical supply. Number two is the natural gas supply. Number three, because there's no electricity, you end up with traffic lights that are not working. And you have an increased number of traffic or amount of traffic because people don't want to stay in a dark house. Eventually that's going to cause problems, accidents, and it's going to tie up the police departments and the fire departments and the rescue personnel with taking care of things that never should have happened in the first place, because people, when they lose their power, get in their cars and go someplace. Now, you'll notice in the pictures that I'm showing you here is the gas stations were all closed, and all these people are riding around using gas. And what's going to happen when the real you-know-what hits the fan is that the people are going to drive in their cars, and they're going to expect to get some gas, and they won't be able to. They're running out of gas. They might be in a part of town that might have some power, but how are they going to get home without gas? And this is going to snowball into a lengthy video of me going from one situation to another situation, boring you to death, and as I give examples of what's going to happen when the infrastructure fails. So, I've already gone on long enough here. My intent here is not to bore you to death, but just as a stepping off point for the videos that are going to be coming up. And I'm going to be going through some of my own personal preparedness plans and the things that I've done to get ready to survive the coming times without power, without the infrastructure in place. We'll go through a lot of things about preparing your home to survive a frozen winter without having to rely on commercial heat. Unfortunately, I don't own my own place. I'm a renter, so that's part of it's going to be pretty limited, but we'll go over a bunch of stuff. But anyhow, I hope you don't take this video as a sign that all of my videos are going to be like this. Some of them will be, because there are things that need to be said that a lot of you don't really want to hear. So, but enough said. Tune in again next time on Survival Times Today, and join me as I prepare for the coming times. And we're going to start with survival kits, and I'm going to show you the different classes or levels of survival kits that I have prepared and that I carry with me at all times as I get ready to prepare for the coming times. Until then, have a good day, cheers, and God bless.